Welcome back. Let us start the second half of today's Foreign Press Center online press briefing, Paralympics special program featuring RDS Company Limited. It was my pleasure to introduce Mr. Anri Sugihara, President and CEO. So thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today, Mr. Sugihara. Thank you. So without further ado, could you perhaps show us the video of the racing wheelchair that was developed by RDS for the Tokyo Paralympics so that the journalists will be able to really experience the form and the speed of the wheelchair. So please watch the video. So thank you for watching the video. And so please now allow me to ask some questions to President Sugihara. Well, first of all, you have just shown us the video featuring the racing wheelchair, and this looks very different from the standard wheelchair and the image that we are associated the wheelchair with. So can you tell us, first of all, what was the concept behind its development? Right, thank you. Well, this racing wheelchair, of course, and this is not a standard wheelchair, so it is used in competitions such as Paralympic Games. So this is a special wheelchair, racing wheelchair, WF01TR. And 01, yeah, this is the one that which participated in the other games. And the concept is that simply it was that it's something different from just being interested and finding excitement in developing a wheelchair, but actually stimulating the physical ability of the athletes. So everything associated with the athlete's movement, and those were made into numbers, which meant that those numbers and the data became a common language, a universal language for us and the athlete, and we can use the most advanced technology like sensing and so on, and we use that to develop the wheelchair. And also the development test driver or the athlete, Mr. Ito, who has tested this racing wheelchair. Our concept was that, gold medal is not the ultimate goal, because technology which has been developed during the process, this could be used for the people with the disabilities to be an active part of the society. So this is really like well, Formula One. This is known as the testing ground for the racing technology. For example, from late 1980s to the beginning of the 1990s, the Ferrari team participating in Formula One race had the paddle shift, which is next to the gear, which can actually make the shift. And they developed that particular technology. Basically, this was for them to make their racing cars run faster. But because of that technological innovation, the people with the disabilities, those who are confined to wheelchairs, they were not able to sit in the car and then drive. But because of this, Ferrari's technology, this was applied for daily use. The people with the disabilities, those who are in a wheelchair, but they can actually be in a car and can, drive a car by operating the brakes and so on by their hands next to the next to them, so nearby the driver's seat. So we wanted to bring about changes to how people live and be part of this society. That's our ultimate purpose and the goal. Thank you. I understand that you yourself call this racing wheelchair a machine. And of course, your company, RDS, has been involved in design, structural analysis, clay modeling for many years. So what made you start developing this racing wheelchair? Well, RDS has been engaged with the racing sports, mega robots, the medical related products, sensing related products. Those are the fields that we have been working with by developing the original technology and leading up to the final products. And actually, we have received the Minister for the Technology and the Industries Prize for Good Design Award. We actually were able to receive an award for the electric, support that we developed, the crutches, and also the 2 gold medals were won, and also the 2 silver medals in the London Paralympics. The athlete Ito-san that I talked about before, we had an encounter with him. And in 2016, we met, and he, we started to collaborate with us on this, racing wheelchair project. And as I said before, the concept that I explained before, well, already we have spent 5 years now together. For the first year or so, we didn't spend any time developing the machine itself. We have made visually the physical ability and the movements. This was an important step for us. I wonder if you know, or well, I think you are all probably seated on a chair and so on. But I don't think there is anyone who, who is aware of the best seating position. So you are sitting, but you are not aware of the best seating position. We need to have a seat which ultimately is, suited for that person. And we came up with a hypothesis. Depending on the seating position, the human being's performance can differ greatly. This is a hypothesis that we had, which means that, this is related to angles or the angles which are attached to, various parts of the wheelchair, like an axle, and depending on such angles and the seating positions, the best seating position differs from person to person. So this became very much clear in the first year and a half collaboration that we had with Mr. Ito. So from that point onwards, we moved on, and we came up with a WF01TR using the carbon material, and we have used 3D printers, all kinds of things in order to design, analyze, and develop the racing wheelchair. And we were able to come up with the completion of this racing wheelchair. Thank you. So you just talked about the seating position or the sitting position, and this racing wheelchair that you also mentioned. Perhaps we can watch that video, another video clip. This is the racing wheelchair developed jointly by RDS and Future Robotics Technology Center, and also the simulator find the best seating position for wheelchair, the simulator known as SS01. Adjusting the back seat, backrest, seat, wheel chamber angle, width, footrest, etc. A range of technologies can help you find the best solution for your body's seating position. And by this, users can reach their full potential by finding a comfortable seat position. We spend a lot of our lives sitting, and this simulator is not only for racing wheelchairs or the daily use wheelchairs, but also for motorsports, esports, and other kinds of sports which require the people to be seated. We believe that this can improve the quality of life for the people who sit for long periods of time, such as the elderly people and office workers.
オンラインでの商品販売には
Thank you for watching. All right, please allow me to continue by asking more questions. I wonder what has been the most difficult challenge that you encountered by venturing into this new field of developing racing wheelchairs, and how did you overcome those challenges? Can you talk about what were the challenges? Well, first of all, we started by taking on something which was not done by anyone else. As I mentioned before, that the performance of a person will be very different according to a person's, seating and position. This is a hypothesis that we had. So, in the formula of the XYZ, etc., there was nothing that we had on hand, like data or the new numbers, algorithm, the formulas, the data, the numbers, everything needed to be obtained by us. That was the very starting point. So this was one big challenge. Then how to measure those movements and how to analyze such data and the numbers. We also had to do that on our own. That was also a challenge. And actually communicating with the athletes, this was a good thing. That we had a very good, wonderful team in collaboration with the athletes. So actually the development itself was not difficult. However, if I have to point out the difficulty that we faced, the Paralympic Games for us is actually Formula One race. Well, in the process, leading up to the development and the completion of this project, how can we actually transfer that and apply that to how the users can use such technology and products in their daily life? The second, the video clip that you just saw, SS01, this is a simulator, and this has actuators or the has 15 of them, and this is actually a robot. It's not really the simulator only for the athletes, but actually for the non-athletes too, those who are using wheelchairs too. So we have actually worked together with an institute, a national institute, looking at people with the disabilities like those who are in wheelchairs. And we are still working with them. And the current issue or the challenge is that in the field of healthcare and also the welfare for the disabled people, there are so many trials and errors. For example, for a wheelchair user, if we want to provide the best seating position in the rehabilitation session, how can we do that in a very fast manner and in a most efficient way and be able to do that in a very clear manner? It is not possible. It's very, very difficult in the current healthcare environment, not only in Japan, but also in the rest of the world. But with the SS01, the simulator, the robotics simulator, what has taken in the past, for days or months, and be only able to measure things at the laboratory level, we can actually do the measurement and the calculation only in few seconds, or just less than a minute or so, to come up with the best seating position for that wheelchair user. And being able to obtain the best seating position for the user, that user will be able to live a more comfortable and pleasant life. And so this was an important concept for us, but also quite a difficult challenge to tackle for us. Thank you. Well, of course, using technology in real life, and of course, Japan is picking up pace in its aging process. And perhaps this technology that you have developed, perhaps this can be used in society, and perhaps Japan can lead the world in terms of providing such solutions to the aging-related issues. Also, perhaps you can tell us how this kind of technology and the racing wheelchairs technology could be useful in a society. How can it be applied in an aging society? I think there are basically 2 points. One is that the so-called healthcare disparities, and another one is the people who are in a vulnerable position in receiving medical care. And also another thing is related to the overall structure and the institution of healthcare in Japan. I think those things are the issues that are presented in front of us to solve. In Japan, in particular, I think that the people, who are vulnerable, they are really lamenting, what will happen to them and, what will happen to Japan. And I think Japan could become a testing ground for providing and coming up with the solutions to such problems, because Japan is ahead of other countries in reaching a very rapid high level of aging society. Like the SSO1, the 01, the simulator that I have said, it can utilize its technology to make it more visible and visualize the data and the numbers. And we are developing all kinds of other, things like machines and robots. But if we could get the data, with the one's physical ability or their performance, that can lead to customization. For example, let's talk about Amazon or Rakuten. When you are shopping on such an e-commerce site, they give you recommendations for other kinds of products that you might be interested in, or you can buy, right? All these recommendations come up on the screen based on your personal information and your personal shopping records. But in the 15 years to come, let's say, if your data related to your body, your physical aspects, utilized more detailed, more appropriate, recommendations may be presented. And in Japan, I don't think people are very much aware of, how things can be improved by using a robot or the simulator like this, and to make improvements in the daily life according to their physical restraints or the abilities and so on. I think that will make it much more clearer for everybody to receive better care and also to be equipped with the better products and so on. So that will lead to the solution solving the disparities of healthcare, medical care, and welfare. And the deep learning, this comes from the right brain. But the big data, huge amount of data, those are not available everywhere. It's only in several limited, places. So now we are building the accumulated database, and utilizing such a database, we can provide data, and that data can be applied to the people who are living in the remote places or the regional areas, and I think that can solve these disparities and differences in the chances of receiving, good medical care and health care. And this one, in the ranking, DC, we are ranked number 2 in the field of care design, and we have received a silver medal and award in an Italian design competition too. Well, I think if in the future, the word wheelchair will disappear. I think it will change to mobility. The small-sized mobility products will be available more and more. And how can we make that for better use, better general use? And we can do that with WF01 or the mini bike that we are also developing too. All these small mobilities, I think those can present Japan to be the testing ground and a place to offer lots of solutions to the rest of the world. And I think in that, ideas can play a part. Also, the first video that you saw on the model, this is the model, has a color, collaboration color that we have collaborated with the AlphaTauri Formula One racing team of Honda, and we have made an agreement with them. So please take a look. Thank you. Well, if you have racing wheelchairs nearby, can you show us the product? Can you see? This is the collaboration color model, collaborating with the Formula One racing team, AlphaTauri. And the coloring is different from the standard one. As I mentioned, this is based with the collaboration with the Formula One racing team. This is quite a personalized one to fit the athlete, the wheelchair racer, Mr. Tomoya Ito. And this one, this is a mini bike that I talked about. And this can be connected and can work together with wheelchair. Also, we are developing products which could be used and enjoyed by all kinds of people. And we always say that RDS, our motto is that what is cool and stylish is justified. And so, of course, they also apply that principle to all the products that we developed. Basically, we want to create and develop cool and stylish products. Thank you. All right, so to the participating journalists and the observers, if you have any questions, please send in your questions by the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, or if you can pose your questions in Japanese, you can do that orally too. Please let us know if you'd like to ask a question. Well, talking about overseas projects or business, do you have any clear ideas, specific ideas or goals as to in how many years' time you would like to do overseas business? As for mobility related field, we have lots of inquiries coming from a variety of different countries, and we are starting to have some collaboration with some countries. So maybe by the end of this year or by spring of next year, I'm sure that we'll be able to make more progress in such international projects. And also we would like to think again, do we really have to make things here in Japan? Because, we have 3D printers, different kinds of technologies, which can make a big transformation in the field of manufacturing and production. So we want to, of course, adjust accordingly. And also using the platform, using our robotics and sensing, in April of next year, everything will be released publicly. And also the robot to personally analyzing the walking steps, the data associated with that will be released, is released, but we can also release a more publicly wider kind of a database that we have. And in fact, just yesterday, there was a non-Japanese collaborator that we had some discussion with, and we talked about possible applications. For example, the elderly people. I think that something can be done for them, because one thing which is very simple to prevent the injuries and the problems with the elderly people is that the elderly people fall. So if we can prevent them from falling, that would solve a lot of problems. The elderly people, because of their frailty, when they fall, they cannot really put their hands out in front of them quickly enough to them to support their body. So if we can come up with a technology which can sense in advance that an elderly person is about to fall, that would prevent, any kind of consequences like, the elderly people being bedridden. And I think that would solve a lot of problems, and that would improve the healthy longevity of the elderly people. So this is one thing that we are looking at too. Thank you. So FPCJ President, Mr. Kodama. Hi, so President Sugihara, thank you very much. My name is Kodama. I'm the FPCJ President, and thank you very much today for joining us, and thank you for elaborating on your technology and the projects. I'm not a non-science person, but having listened to you, I think that many of the solutions and how the challenges can be overcome, that those are all universal, not only specific to Japan. And you talked about the elderly people's, not falling, preventing them to fall, and so on. I think this kind of thing is very, very useful. And perhaps Japan is lagging behind in really appreciating and understanding the stronger need for this kind of technology, compared to other countries. And I know this is quite a strange question, maybe irregular question. But since you have been leading your company as a frontier pioneer company, do you think that there are lots of barriers in Japan which serve as hurdles, like regulations and so on, restrictions and so on, administrative red tapes and so on? I think that the RDS technology can benefit Japan a lot, but for not only for the elderly generation, but for the younger generations in this country to benefit more from your technology, and for your technology to be used much more widely. I wonder if you have any frank comments or even wants and demands to the governments and the regulating bodies. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Well, Of course, as you said, our technology and our projects are appreciated much more overseas. When we issue our press releases, there are more inquiries coming from overseas. And we have been really, sweeping off all the prizes in the, Italian design awards and the competitions and so on. So probably we are better known outside of Japan. But what you have just elaborated in your question, I think including all the local governments and including the central governments, actually, they are not so slow in responding to what we are doing. But I always say that the urgency and the technology innovation are the same. So, the Japanese society will have about more than 30% of this population being the above of the age of 65 by 2040. So regardless of Tokyo, Osaka, Fukuoka, Nagoya, wherever, well, the so-called ordinance, designated cities, all kinds of cities, and even like in rural communities, like in Tohoku region, really the elderly people are more, present. And these people and the governments are very much eager to really test our technology and to utilize our technology. And of course, Tokyo government is, of course, interested in our technology, and they express interest. But Tokyo is such a big place, and so things cannot move about so quickly, and everything is so concentrated here. For example, by moving from point A to B, you can easily pick up a taxi. There are buses, there are trains to take you from point B, to A or vice versa. If you go to a rural place, you can't find a taxi. You cannot catch a bus or the train. So the personal mobility or the EV buses or the automatic transfer related transit trains like mass transit. I think all these things can be used. I think people's concept, can be changed for the better. Don't you think that the bus stops and the bus stations should be changed from time to time? Because if the local community population, the age, average age, changes over the years, over time, really, if you can use the algorithm, you can actually change the locations of the bus stops and the bus stations. And I think you can do that very easily over in the rural areas, remote areas. But if you do that in Tokyo, being such a big city, if the bus stops are changed from time to time, everybody will be panicking, right? But anyway, I think that the innovation will definitely take place here in Japan, because whenever we identify an issue, a problem, we are very good at solving such an issue. And the problem, I think Japan is excellent in that. But how we go about doing that could be different from other countries. So sometimes we are known as the Galapagos country, but since we can do an online meeting like today in this press briefing, I think whatever is beneficial and what are the strong points of the involved persons or the companies, I think we should recognize those advantages and the strong points rather than criticizing and focusing on the negative parts, and we should work together. And I think what we need to do is trying to adjust such differences and work together, with the people outside of Japan too. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Questions also welcome from the observers as well, not just journalists. In that case, can I ask you a question? You talked about problem solving. Let's say, I wonder if you have a specific relationship that you have with a particular local authority or the local government that you could be working with. I think that's a high possibility for you, for RDS. And do you have any plans to work with some specific local governments? Well, issues faced by local governments Yes, we have had some actual cases that we have worked together with them to offer solutions. For example, in Saitama Prefecture, we have done something to prevent the fall by the elderly people, and those who suffer from Alzheimer's disease, etc. They have this particular way of walking, and so we can take that into consideration too. And also in preventing a person's falling, we can use the human engineering, and we can also apply that technology for the cart to be used by children. So each time we need to identify clearly what is the exact problem and what is best suited to the needs of the users. So for me, identifying issues and the problems, those are really important. It doesn't really matter whether you come from the humanities background or the scientific background, or you're talking about whatever fields. It doesn't really matter. And I think in the Paralympic Games, which are going on right now in Tokyo, I think that the people are feeling much closer to people who have some kind of disabilities. These are no longer people who are totally strange to you. And perhaps even if you don't yet have a disability, but a person with the age and, for other reasons, their physical ability is becoming less and less, or, you are becoming frail. So, of course, the Mr. Ito, 13 years ago, he won a medal, and actually he even bettered with that, personal best, right? And he is almost 60 years of age. He's 57. And he improved his personal best, since 13 years. And he's such a cool guy. And of course, by having the intervention of technology with such the athlete, you think that, I can perform at this level based on your own experience, but with the technology, you can realize that you can even better your records and your physical ability level. And even when your physical ability deteriorates, it's much better if your starting point is much higher than before. And not for non-athletes, and quality of life can also be improved too. And we are looking towards the future. Let's say in 30 years' time, I think our generation should be more interested and should be more eager in looking towards the society and what kind of future we want to create for the younger generation in 30 years' time. Whether it's illness or sickness, of course, all kinds of things can happen in life, but by sharing the common data, that I explained, for example, related to one's physicality and so on, I think things can be better for the future. Well, I don't really want to talk too much by that because the future generation may think that there will be nothing left for them to do. But anyway. And this, I just wonder, can you talk a little bit about the physical part? According to the Ministry of Information and the Communications, they have the data on the average height of the certain generations. And those who are working at the kindergartens or the nurseries, there are more female women working in taking care of the children. And even in emergencies or at normal times, when the minibike that I talked about, that can be used to evacuate, right, in case of a fire or the other disaster, and how human engineering under 160 centimeters height, someone, who falls, how that how such people can use that kind of mobility, and by taking children, that's adding extra weight, and whether we can have the mobility, can withstand the weight, and we are working with a company called One Table. And I'm not saying that the existing products are no good, but I think we need to seek better capabilities and the performances. If you can go, even by 1 centimeter further from where you are, you can have a better chance of escaping from emergencies. For example, in the tsunami disaster, the tsunami came up quite far into the inland, and by evacuating, allowing them to evacuate further, it can save lots of lives, more lives, whether it's a typhoon or the earthquake. Of course, we have gone through such lots of disasters rather than, crying over the big number of casualties. But we have to think, more about how we can save more lives in the future. This is DARPA product. This also won an award as well from Italy. I don't know whether there's someone from Italy, but thank you very much for, appreciating our product. Thank you. No other questions, I feel, I know, but if you have any further questions, after the session, of course, you can send the questions too. And how can we get in touch with you? You can always access from our homepage, our website on the internet, and you can send your queries, questions, and we can get in touch, get back to you. And we are very much so for, we are really thankful that, everyone is quite interested in what we do, and we are receiving lots of inquiries. Anything that is positive, we are very much happy to also answer your questions and respond to your interviews. And the videos that you showed us today, can those be used in the articles and the programs? No problem. And if you wonder what company RDS is and what RDS looks like, please go to the website, and you can look at the collaboration that we have with the Formula One racing team AlphaTauri. All right. There are no further questions from the participants and the viewers. So on that note, I would like to bring this second session with RDS to a close. So President Sugihara, thank you very much today. Thank you, thank you. No, thank you very much, and thank you for the questions. And President Nakodama, thank you for your question. I look forward to be with you on the next in the near future. Thank you. So this brings to a close the online press briefing and the online visits to companies. So thank you very much to all the participants today. Well, holding an event like this by remote, virtually, to do interviews, company visits, this was our first attempt in doing so, and very sorry that if there were hiccups and inconveniences that you may have encountered, but please, let us know how you found it. And perhaps if we can do something similar in the future, perhaps we can think about organizing an event like this in the future. So please do send us your comments. You can be frank with us, what you found good about it. Maybe there are points that you would like to see more improvements on. Please let us know how you found this event today. And we are also going to send you a questionnaire. We would very much appreciate if you could kindly fill in the questionnaire and send it back to us. So thank you very much. Thank you.